I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I do believe PVE mode for Tarkov is the best thing to happen to the game since the jump from closed alpha to open beta testing and the introduction of Arena, and I do believe it'll get a ton of new players and reluctant returning players like myself to return to the city of Tarkov. That's a bold statement, but my claim, like my magazine, will not be empty. The entire video is going to be loaded up with ammunition backing up my claim that PVE mode is supremely solid. And by the end of this video, you're either going to agree with me or you're going to be sniffing and whiffing what I'm smelling, but your nostrils aren't going to intake it the same way. You'll be educated on what the mode is, what it has to offer, and why I think it's the bee's knees and the mule's nips. But in order to do that, we're going to have to break this video into timestamps or chapters. If your character stamina is high enough, feel free to jump around. Wouldn't recommend it if you don't have a splint because you're going to snap both your shits off. First, we're going to take it back to the colonial ages with my history of Tarkov. Then we're going to leave the classroom and hit the streets to talk about the problems with Tarkov PVP, the traditional Tarkov experience that we all know and yeah. The problems of PvP and why a lot of streamers and YouTubers and average Janes and Joes are playing the PvE mode. Then gather around the campfire because it's time for a little backstory about the greed of Battlestate Games and the time Edge of Darkness members got greased up and taken for a ride that they didn't buy a ticket for. Or they did buy a ticket, but then the ticket was revoked and they couldn't get on the ride because they weren't tall enough. Then finally, we're going to talk about what exactly is PvE mode. What are we doing here? And I'm sure what a lot of you are curious about, how are the raids? How are the AI scavs? And more importantly, how are the AI PMCs, the simulated players that you're going to be engaging? They will fuck you up. I've heard them compared to raiders. They're not. They're on their own AI system, which we'll talk about later. They do everything a player would. They loot, they scoot, they flank, they throw grenades. It's fucking crazy. And then last but not least, we're going to finish up with a little bit of negativity, the things that I do not like from the mode, some things I'd like changed or revised with future updates. Let's get it. So without further ado, throw on your pilgrim backpack, sharpen your red rebel, and get ready to deploy. So first of all, I want to talk about my history with Escape from Tarkov, EFT, as this is not my first rodeo cowboy. In fact, I've been bucked off and kicked in the face by a mule a couple times. These are fake teeth in the front, some bitch. I am an EOD package holder. That was the silliest way to say that. I ain't holding no packages here, but we'll talk about what that means. But we're going to revisit why that's important later and how all Edge of Darkness members were collectively bent over a barrel in factory while unbathed scabs had their way with our secure containers.
Гоп-стоп, мы подошли из-за угла. I
used to play Tarkov with my military coworkers at the time, and God forbid solo if I wanted to give away some gear because my stash was a little too full. I've uploaded 34 Tarkov videos to this channel, not including the one you're watching today, although the majority of them are now private or members only since the quality and my commentary is super cringe. I stopped playing Tarkov because it was taking all my time. It was the only game I was playing. It was the only thing I was doing. All relationships in my life were taking a back burner to Tarkov, and unfortunately near the end of my experience with Tarkov, I was not having fun with it, which is a term that I understand isn't necessarily associated with Tarkov because it's a military sim where one bullet to the face will fetch you death and you lose all your gear, high stakes, high rewards. I get the whole concept. I was dying to cheaters and I was dying to geared up PMCs like every fucking time. And that's around the time my channel started growing as well, so I really wanted to put time and energy into reviewing gaming peripherals, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, covering the gaming news, doing the things that you've seen me do the last 3 years, and none of that would have been possible if I was still playing Escape from Tarkov. Now it is because I was able to go full-time with this content creation thing, and now I can just talk about video games all day. But I was dying to hackers, extract campers, regular corner campers, and the group of guys I was playing with just stopped playing. They've since came back to Tarkov and since left and came back multiple times while I've just been away. I guess you could say I escaped Tarkov January 6, 2021, 3.5 years ago, because that was the last video I uploaded, and I cannot logically remember launching the game after that video. But I never stopped watching the community. A lot of my favorite content creators are Tarkov mains, Pestily, Aqua FPS, and Landmark. But I've been watching the game's progress, positive and unfortunately negative, waiting for the perfect moment for redeployment.
Let's put some fucking lead in them.
I dimmed the lights a little bit because we're about to take it to a serious tip and I want things to be a little bit creepy in here. So the problems with traditional Tarkov PVP are player versus player / environment, because you got the scavs in there as well. Hackers, that's a huge one. This video from the GOAT a year ago with 3.7 million views, the one where he purposely cheated and pointed out all the crazy cheats, wall hacks, and nefarious things that nefarious douchebags are doing with bots, scripts, and hacks. The wiggle that killed Tarkov, you've probably seen the video. That was from a year ago, and things with hackers, the situation has not gotten better. In fact, it's declined. It's gotten worse. I want you to watch this little clip from Jesse Kazam. It was uploaded 2 days ago, but things have not gotten better. In fact, they've gotten a little bit stinkier. Whoa. Where'd that guy come from? This guy falling down, raining lead. His reaction, that's all you really can do. Next one is going to be wipes. I absolutely hate the system. Casual players can never complete quests because every 6 months or so, the quests get wiped and the actual quest areas are so populated with PMC campers that you can't really pick up the items that you need to. Hardcore players like streamers who've completed the same quest 10 times over don't want to do it either. And it also reinstates the play-to-win nature of the various versions of the game. I'm an EOD, not Explosive Ordnance Disposal, but Edge of Darkness member, and I start each wipe with a bunch of gear that you standard people don't. And a bigger secure container, better trader reputation, standing. In fact, the only players that I've seen that actually enjoy the wipe system are the 1%ers, the super hardcore streamers, the landmarks out there that are shitting on you consistently. And I personally always like the approach of, we'll say like a Bethesda game. It's up to you when you want to create a new character, a new build. In this case, wipe yourself, grab the toilet paper, wipe yourself, make a new character, but it's not forced. You don't just get the tweet from Battlestate saying, hey, pre-wipe event, enjoy unlimited rubles and crazy raiders clapping cheeks. In 3 days, you're losing all your progress, even though you were super close to Kappa or whatever. You probably weren't close to Kappa. You definitely weren't, you know. And last but certainly not least, I hear a lot of talk about the hackers, but the real player base of Tarkov. You've got a lot of gamers that aren't very good at shooters, so they exit camp usually in packs of 3 like a damn firing squad, staring at the door of factory, waiting for you to attempt to extract. And screw just the extracts, they camp corners like it's Call of Duty, and unlike COD or Apex, where you think, oh, that was stupid, I just died to a camper, let me just respawn in from the lobby. This is a high-stakes game, and you might have just lost a shitload of gear. All reasons players that like the Tarkov experience, like the inventory management, the RPG aspects, doing the quests, leveling up your character stats, and even the high-intensity gunfights where a well-placed bullet could mean life or death, loot, or staring at the post-death screen. And I'm here to say right now that you still get that with the PvE, but you know that you didn't die to a hacker, and the overall level of intensity is turned down slightly yet noticeably to what I would deem a perfect balance for most casual players that like the gameplay loop of Tarkov but don't like all the problems I just mentioned. Hopefully you got your s'mores supplies on deck, and I want you to park your buns on this log, but be careful because there's some fire ants that might bite your tuchus. It's backstory time, and we're going to talk a little bit about the greed of Battlestate games. We're talking about 3 to 4 months ago when the Unheard edition was released, which absolutely should have been called the Unbought edition because nobody in their right mind was purchasing that sucker, and to an Edge of Darkness member who 4 years ago paid $150 to the devs when the game just entered closed beta and had 5 maps because I wanted to support the team, really enjoyed their game, and hadn't experienced a rush like it before. The main shtick with that highest end version of the game, which was $150 for a closed beta game, wasn't in the condition that it is today. It didn't have a lot of the features that you're used to, like the hideout. There was only 4 or 5 maps. But one of the bullet points when you're comparing the various versions of the game is that with that highest end flagship EOD version, you get all future DLC or add-ons for free. Then when the Unheard edition was released, Edge of Darkness members, their cheese was left completely out in the wind as backpedaling defense damage control tweet came out from Battlestate where they literally doubled down on their decision and said, this isn't DLC, it's a completely different project we've been working on, and however they wanted to word it, it did not come off well. They lost a good portion of their player base, and this is around the time that Tarkov clones like Gray Zone started really popping off, although none of them really held a candle or wick, Bic, Zippo, or any kind of flame to Tarkov because they're not really that comparable or similar. For example, Dark Zone, or I keep calling it Dark Zone, Gray Zone is very similar to like Arma 2 and 3 rather than Tarkov. But a lot of hardcore players, a lot of streamers that main that game started exploring greener horizons that was away from the greed of Battlestate games because this was at the height of hackerific hackerness. It didn't seem like Battlestate was really implementing any changes there, but then they come out of the woodworks with a $250 package that the EOD members that already paid $150 were supposedly not going to have access to. to. Now, that is no longer the case, as it is a $50 upgrade from the Edge of Darkness, and the main feature of that Unheard edition, and what this entire video is reviewing, is now included for Edge of Darkness holders and a $20 upgrade to any version of the game, including the $50 standard edition. So all in, you could play co-op in this PvE mode with your buds for $70, which is the cost of a new release game. Although keep in mind, every time you log in, you're staring at that little placard, that orange warning saying this is in beta, so don't blame us if it crashes on you. Although in my opinion, there is a lot of content to be had here. There was back when the Edge of Darkness package was a thing. And even though it is in closed beta, if you enjoy the gameplay loop, you're going to get your money's worth out of at least the standard edition with the PvE add-on, the $70 package. I can't really recommend anybody spends $250 on any game, let alone the Unheard edition. But if you are an Edge of Darkness holder like myself, and you're a hardcore Tarkov player, you play it a lot, it's one of your main games, then that $50 upgrade might not be terrible for you. It does increase your stash space. It does give you three or four additional pockets. Some of the niceties that are on screen here, which I'm going to do a video in the very near future unlocking this package. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to spend my money so you don't have to. And then I'm going to show you all of the things that you get, all the sugar as we get a little diabetes, showing you what's unlocked with that package. Do I really think it's worth it? Probably not, but no, still want you to watch the video. But for a beta game, there's a lot of content and it feels like a normal game most of the time. And with this PvE mode, there's a lot of things that people like about Tarkov that can be enjoyed without the negatives that we've come to expect and somewhat accept, because the actual core game itself is that enjoyable. Deal with, oh, there's a hacker there that just ruined my day. We just get used to it, just like a Bethesda game in that regards. If you're a big fan of Fallout or an Elder Scrolls game, you kind of get used to the bugs, glitches, and the fact you're going to have to mod the shit out of it. If you haven't caught my video on the Fallout 4 Total Conversion mod London, check it out. A couple of little bonuses of the PvE version versus PvP. One is going to be the load times are substantially lower because you're just matching with yourself or your buddies. Two is going to be, it makes getting quests done way easier because PMCs aren't all rushing the quest areas. And also there's a much higher chance of you getting to those quest items and them not being gone, and also just high ticket loot not being gone. And the second one is that graphically the game looks better. It seems like you can crank up your graphic settings to make the game look prettier without taking as big of a frame rate hit. I've heard some players say it's the opposite and PvE mode is gets you less frames and whatnot, but I'm noticing better performance. So what the hell is PvE mode? Well, you fight AI PMCs, which I'll talk about in great extent. How do they work? And I'm also going to show you some firsthand engagements so you can see how they behave. There is no other real players, and your progress never wipes. So you can keep questing or working towards Kappa or leveling up your stats or building up your hideout without having to worry about a wipe every 6 months. You can also play co-op with up to 5 friends. 5 friends? 4 friends. A total of a 5-man squad. And all mechanics are identical to the real PvP mode, including gunsmithing and a flea market, which is fueled or items hosted, I should say, by real PvE players. I've heard a lot of comparisons between the PvE mode and SPT or single player Tarkov. They're actually pretty damn different, and I want to touch on that right now. The main one is PvE has co-op built in, as Tarkov SPT doesn't. There might be a mod to do it, and that is one thing that SPT does have is mod support, which is not in the PvE mode. But the biggest problem with SPT is that it is usually very behind on builds or patches because it has to be cracked by the modding community, and all mechanics of the PvE mode are identical to PvP, and it's launched in the same main menu. You can switch right back to the PvP mode, and everything feels so natural to what you've played, as opposed to SPT, where you know you're playing something that's not a normal Tarkov experience. Yeah, it's really not the same. So how are the raids? That's the main thing that you're going to do in Tarkov when you're not doing the inventory management and jerking your Tashanka in your hideout. First of all, the AI scavs are increased in spawn rate. You are going to see so many scavs, so goddamn many scavs. Their difficulty seems identical to regular PvP mode, maybe ever so slightly increased. Also, AI boss spawns are increased. I'm going to go over the patch notes in just a minute as I screen share, but the important summary here, they behave very similar to real players. They loot, they extract, they roll solo or in squads. They have various gear sets and skill that does not depend on their dog tag level. I think that's just randomized depending on how much money you're going to get by selling it. They use audio quips very frequently, which lets you know that they're a PMC and not a scav. It can also give away their position too. They definitely say audio quips more frequently than a regular player would.
We got a fit.
Ruskies ahead.
Fuckers, ha! fellas, let's put some fucking lead in them.
But quite simply, they are very dangerous. I would say they're difficulty-wise like raiders, but a lot of times you simply won't know they're there until you're dead. So very similar to the real PvP experience, which I'm going to share a little clip it here. I was looting and I didn't see this guy at all. The PMC from across the building, hiding in the shadows, crouched down, ADSing, beams me, you know, full health to no health. But here's what the PMCs can and will do. They pick up items. You will hear them looting just like a regular player. That includes loose loot, crates, and bodies. They will also think in their little computer brain and try and choose what's more valuable loot. So keep this in mind. When you kill one of those PMCs that was just looting, they're going to have some of the better loot on them, kind of like a real player. They can also pick up weapons and equipment. I don't know, I said equipment like that. That was so weird. But if they find better equipment, they'll replace their stuff. They're kitting up. They're increasing their gear as they find it. That's fucking crazy. Now, to my understanding, originally when this mode was introduced like 3 months ago, the PMCs were zone-based and would just rove in a little square. That's not the case, and I never got to experience that, and I'm glad because that sounds really stupid. Now AI PMCs travel all over the entire map, and they'll basically simulate player rotations where whether they're solo or in a duo or fuck a 4-pack, whatever, they're gonna know where the popular loot spots are. Maybe they looked up a YouTube video, a Pestily tutorial, and they're gonna start rushing those loot areas, so they're gonna move towards dorms on customs, stuff like that. Also, it says bots move in tactical formation. So unlike raiders, these suckers will do some stuff like zigzag back and forth when running in the open. And if you shoot at a group when they're running single file, one of them might crouch down, one of them might drop prone. They kind of do act like a real squad. It's wild. They camp, but not really. They're not going to sit there, not breathing, not drinking pineapple juice, not doing shit like a real player until they hear you and then just beam you in the cranium because they know they won't win a 1v1 with you. But what they will do is when they reach one of these high loot, high ticket areas, they kind of just wait for enemies. So they kind of think of it like camping, except they're usually a lot more visible. They're not hiding in a corner. They're kind of just out there. But it says setting up ambushes. I have had 2 or 3 PMC engagements where one PMC will go one way and then the other one will actually take a different route to try and flank me. It's terrifying because that's something that real players would do. And this is fucking crazy because you can extract camp yourself as the PMCs do extract. So you can just chill by an extract by like a big piece of shit. And once they've collected enough loot, they're thinking, bro, my bag's full. Let's get the hell out of here. And then enough time passed. They check their little watch. They see what extracts they have. They're going to start heading to an exfil. When PMCs are in an open area, and so not inside buildings, but they're trying to cover more ground to get to one of those high loot areas, they're doing the map rotation like a real player would do. They're going to sprint. You're going to hear that. And this is incredibly important to notice as I'm covering my mouth because I just kind of realized this now with all of y'all. The PMCs that I've been playing saying are actually pretty difficult and they'll fuck you up. They're all limited to level 20 currently because I'm still below level 20 and I'm primarily playing on Ground Zero map because that's the new starter map where you have the 4 starter quests. Back in my day, it used to be customs, but now you have to complete 4 starter quests on Ground Zero. Now, once you're over level 20, you'll be in a pool with harder PMCs, although by that point, there's really no reason to be on Ground Zero because all your quests are done and you're going to find better loot on the other maps. So this is an interesting note and it does work differently than I've heard people describe it, where if one AI sees you, they're all locked onto you, ready to one-tap you. It does not work like that at all. But what happens is one AI will do a voice quip. Usually the PMCs, they say them constantly. They'll spot you and they'll be like, there's a scav or an enemy right there. All enemies that are within earshot of that, so a certain radius that would be within hearing distance in the game, are going to investigate. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to rush you and try and kill you. They might take cover. They might even run away from you, but they're going to react to that one AI calling out, hey, there's a player here. Scavs are also going to travel across the entire map looking for loot, but they're a lot less picky about the loot they pick up than PMC players. And this is incredibly exciting, very promising. This is the first iteration of AI improvements with the PVE mode. In future updates, we also plan to refine the tactical behavior of AI, as well as the interaction system between AI and different factions. So Battlestate is going to continue to improve these mechanics, which is good because the PMCs aren't perfect. There were a couple engagements where they would get hung up on a wall or a door, and I could just shoot them there, but I didn't take advantage of the situation because I didn't know that they were going to get hung up there. So I wait for a couple seconds, and then when they get free of that door, they just beam me, destroy me. But that really does take away the spice or the excitement of a PMC engagement, knowing that if they get hung up on a door, you could just chuck a well-placed grenade. And one other thing I don't like is that you cannot do practice raids in co-op. So a fully offline practice raid where you can turn off the bots and just run around the map showing a new player where all the extracts are, or practice on some AI scavs and not have to worry about losing your loot because it's a practice raid. You can only do those solo. You cannot do that with another player, which I thought was super stupid. But what's not super stupid is this mode, as I'm getting a shitload of enjoyment from it, and I really didn't expect to be playing Tarkov again, especially so close to me making this video where I'm saying Tarkov is a different game and the studio isn't the team, the developer team that I stood behind because of the greed of the Unheard edition, plus they're not doing much for the hacking problem. They just introduced a whole new mode where hacking isn't even possible, and it is good, clean fun. So don't be surprised in my future peripheral reviews or gaming news videos if you catch a little B-roll of some PVE mode Tarkov. Drop in the comment section below what you think of this new mode. Are you a new player to Tarkov that's thinking this might be the time to try it because you don't have to worry so much? Or do you think this is some soft pillow bubble weak-ass whack-ass version and I should just get good and that's the only reason I like PVE is because I would always get my cheeks clappeth on online or whatever? Share your opinion down there in the description below. No, not the description. That's where there's discounts for a bunch of products you should check out. Comment section, do your thing. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more stallions and stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.